Hello there team. So I've owned Three Kingdoms Total War for around about 3 days now, but I've not actually been able to play it too much. I've been pretty busy with some other games. So this is the first time though that I've been able to get a bit of PvP done. So all of these battles are just me going up against the same friend really. Somebody else joins in for a little bit for us to try out some sieges. But generally it's just me and him. So it's quite interesting to go through how our army makeups change and also our playstyles change a bit over the course of these battles. So I just auto-generated this army. I've only ever done one other custom battle in this game, and the army I made up was horrific. So I just didn't trust my ability to do it right now, and I just played with the army that it gave me, and played with the generals that it gave me too. So I dismounted my generals from the start. I wanted them to move alongside the men. I didn't want my generals to be mounted, and also what I was worried about was if my generals were mounted, they would be suffering the sort of anti-cavalry bonus from a lot of the enemy spear units. So I love how much space they give that horse when they walk through. But no, so as I say, it's a pretty balanced army. But there are some issues I come to immediately because I don't know what's in my army. So I form up here. A lot of these units have shields, but not all of them do. So I try to engage the enemy in a bit of a skirmish battle in a minute. Move my archers up front. This is before I've gotten my head really around loose formation. So, you know, I didn't really know where the button was for that. I didn't know which units could do that and all. So I don't use that, but I think he is using loose formation, but that's okay. So a failure that I come to immediately here is because I don't know my army too well. I just believe everything has round about the same range. So, which is certainly not the case. These units on the right here all have a range of about 200. They're all archers, or rather elite archers. But these are repeating crossbows, and these defenders of Earth only have 150 range. So we engage each other, but even though his men are in this loose formation, I'm getting a lot of shots that are just hitting his main armoured line behind him. Whereas since I've separated my guys out, it's only them getting hit. The problem with that though is they're being exposed to cavalry. So yeah, these repeating crossbows, as I say, I charged them forward, just not expecting them to not get a shot, and so they're running pretty quick. He's got these two cabs, so I've got to pick my battles and decide to just defend the flank of my infantry line and letting that get through. But I've called back my horses there, and they are able to catch them, but it's not actually too brutal. Something I've noticed about this game so far in my playing is if your men are running away from a cavalry charge, you can really lessen the damage. I think it's just because how fast infantry is in this game, and you're sort of able to take the cavalry bonus away. So he's getting a bit of friendly fire against his own horses there, which is benefiting me.
Is that your best? Come on, try harder.
But no, so yeah, so he's sort of lost micro on these guys a little bit, and I'm able to zero in on them with my medium bows. Most of the people that did rout there did come back, but I have lost this skirmish battle here because of that cavalry move, and because, you know, all of his men are archers, whereas half of mine were repeating crossbows. So it's on me to charge him. I can't just sit and let him. He's still got half his ammunition left, so I need to move up. So I start to just a nice even just rush charge, and he's still volleying my archers at that point. So I'm able to get pretty close before he's able to focus me. And an important thing is my defenders of Earth have only lost one guy, and also my repeating crossbows, well, at least one unit of them, so that's 42 guys now. So I'm moving them up forward. I see I'm pretty slow with organising my people here, so it takes me a bit of time to get my generals up. Probably should have even moved my generals up first, and this is a major issue with leaving your generals unmounted. What I do now is I'll always have my generals mounted, and then before combat, before they have to fight, I'll get them off their horse. It only takes a few seconds to get them off the horse, so it's not an issue.
The men are out of ammunition.
I don't know which I can click on this. Ah, okay, so he's out of ammo now. It'll take me a little while to realise that and charge him in. So I sent my cavalry up here to try and get the jump on his cav, but he's answered that by sending his champion and his vanguard over to assist. Now, they are going to beat my cavalry here, without question, but I'm sort of comfortable with tying all of that up while I just push through here in a bit of a mob. Now, I've exposed their flank to my defenders of earth, and soon my repeating crossbowmen are just going to have a free reign to fire into here. But in the same way as that, he's done with this right here too. So strategists, I know this now, of course, strategists are absolutely abysmal in melee, but I just needed something to tie up this unit, and I wanted to send him to do it.
Fire upon them. Look.
Whereas this is romance mode, of course, as you'll be able to tell. So the generals are pretty unnaturally heroic.
Be everywhere and nowhere.
So you can see my friend, he keeps all of his guys on horses, which I don't think it's this battle that it comes into play, but there is a time where I believe this champion, I think his weapon actually allows him to have a slight anti-cavalry bonus, and that pulls me through a lot of battles that maybe I should have lost, just because my enemies kept him on his horse.
Attack!
So it's pretty chaotic. There's a lot of times in this that I've been playing so far where I've won a battle and I'm just not really too sure how I've done it. But this was definitely one of those moments where I was quite surprised to win. Well, so he gets his champion in there, but as you can see, so he's mounted, whereas mine isn't, and I'm able to sort of go toe to toe along with these halberd infantry. So these halberd infantry are definitely getting an anti-cavalry bonus, and it's just, I feel if these two were dismounted, this could have gone quite differently, because you can see how quickly their health is just disappearing. As much as I love repeating crossbowmen, I don't use them all that much from this point on. I feel that they're not their failings in range and their failings from sort of the actual power of their weaponry is a bit too much for me. So I'll speed up a little bit, but okay, good. Now, as I say, a lot of modern games from Total War have a very liberal definition of Pyrrhic victory. I would have said that was close, but let's see what the ending screen has for me here. So the main killing power, my generals didn't actually rack up as massive amount of kills as they often do, but as for the entire army, this is quite abnormal for me in the later stages. Usually it's my archers that are the main killing power, whereas this time it was these pearl dragons, I think they are called, and apart from that, it's these sword militia. Whereas from my friend here, yeah, it was definitely his archer line was supreme there, and I guess it was just my swordsmen were able to beat all of his spears, and he relied quite a lot on his cavalry. But 116 kills, you can't really be too disappointed with that. Saying that though, these men here did get 340 kills, so that was quite good. So that was the first battle we played. And after that, hopefully these don't take too long to load. But so this was my first battle that, actually no, I think I used the same army for this one. Yeah, looks like it. So I used I had success with the army the last time, and I chopped and changed it a little bit. That's what I did, yeah. So I decided that there were a few things in here I didn't need. I didn't need as much cavalry, so I only had one unit of spear cav, and the only focus for him was to counter the enemy cav. I kept all the same leaders though. I was really quite happy with how they did. So another pretty even map, and this time I decided to deploy my archers out front. But same, unfortunately I had not discovered the tactics of spacing at this time. So everybody's still pretty clumped up. He's got his same champions apart from this commander now. What my current strategy is I actually remove this sentinel and I take a commander instead, just to keep my men in the field and keep them buffed up. But what I'm going to start experimenting with soon is actually removing a strategist from my army. I don't think I use strategists to their full benefit. So we're getting pretty close, and again, this is how most of these battles sort of turn out. We always sort of start with this skirmish line, just with our archers moving out forward. My archer militia is getting cut to ribbons there, another unit of archer militia, and then here is where I've actually sort of got the power. I still at this point didn't really grasp the lack of range from these guys, but I realised it at the start of that battle. Now, why did I do this? Yeah, I'm not too sure why I kept my archers in reserve. These were still repeating crossbows, so they were of course just waiting. But what would have probably, right now I've got this unit of marksmen up there just alone getting cut to pieces. It would have been better had I just put everything up at the same time. But again, I decide, I've sort of lost the little brawl there. I need to push up. So it's a pretty even charge all the way through. He does zero in that these are the most important unit there, and they don't have a shield. They're very healthy guys, but they just can't withstand that much arrow fire coming at them. But at least with them getting hit, nobody else is. So I might end up with one very nice unit with nobody left, but everything else is fully healthed. Now my archers, a lot of them still with their full strength, are just moving up.
Do not waste your breath. You will need it. Our men flee the battlefield.
The Pearl Dragons are wiped out, so that's fair. These spear militia took some hits, but as far as I can tell, those are spears. Those are good spears, but these are quite good swordsmen too. So I was pretty comfortable with how I was going to go on the right. The left was a little more dicey because I had a lot of peasants over there, some spear guard, but he had spear guard all the way along his line. So what my friend likes to do is he likes to have this little death stack off his commanders, which is very deadly when it works. But as I say, I had him. No, I didn't. He's down here. See, when he keeps them all mounted, and especially when I can get some spears in there, they can really start to fall apart. So he broke through, and he's totally surrounded these guys. But they're, I think that they're definitely breakable. They can definitely flee, but they're holding it quite well because these are just archers. They were getting shot from behind by repeating crossbows too. So my crossbows just getting hit by that cav. My defender cav were just slightly too slow to come in and save the day there, but they're gonna deal with them, I believe. How am I using my other generals right now? So my vanguard is just there, trying to back them up, and then I've got my sentinel, and not sentinel, my strategist. Again, he's sort of stuck into melee, but oh wow. Nice. Oh, so he's firing right down my line. I didn't actually notice that. That's actually a really nice shot. So I've not used the yellow turban archers yet, so I don't know what type of shot that blue fire was, but it clearly wiped out a lot of my militia tier units there. But I was pretty confident with how this blob was going, and I thought this blob on the right even though he's got all of his generals here, I was doing okay. Right now he's not in the fight. That's something I do definitely fail with a few times. It's just my generals kill everything around them, and then they just hang around. So I need to get a little bit better at immediately giving them another target afterward. My repeating crossbows, I'm just trying to use them sort of in the same way I use like muskets in a lot of games, like in Medieval 2, how you would just sort of get a musketeer unit right behind somebody, or even muskets in Shogun. There's a lot of things about this game that do remind me of the combat in Shogun, but which is a good thing for me, because that was definitely one of my favorite games in terms of the multiplayer combat anyway. So that was another Pyrrhic victory, which I thought it went. I did think it went okay, and I was very happy with the changes to my army there. Even though I just foolishly used my archers there, that was just a silly move for me. The defenders of Earth again racked up huge amounts of kills, and the repeating crossbows, both the heavy and otherwise, did quite well. Again, my friend, he had a very strong archer line. He-Man was racking up kills like crazy, but apart from that, it was a lot of spears. They were great for holding me in place, but my swordsmen were just able to deal with them. Again, Pearl Dragons just weren't able to fight. So that was our second fight. Now we'll jump into the first siege we had. So this was 3 of us, and now we weren't too sure how sieging was meant to be done with multiple people. That's something I need to look into that. So we had 2 of us, because we couldn't really tell that when 2 of us joined a team, we still had the same amount of money. Now I offered my friend to have an AI assistant, but he wasn't having that, so we decided just both the attackers will make sure we're not spending 5k off our forces, but that still meant that we each had 6 generals for his 3, so probably not a very fair fight, but as I say, we're just experimenting. I decided to go for a very sort of mass approach, with the exception of this unit, who I've leveled up quite significantly, and yeah, he's gone for a lot of these axemen, who I used in my first ever practice battle. Some repeating crossbows, and I believe those are normal crossbowmen there. Again with some spears and some peasant spears. So can't be far from finishing loading now. Good. So we also decided an additional rule, just to make it a little more fair, was we were only able to attack from this area. You know, so this wall and sort of this corner here, just to make it a more sort of exciting battle and more crowded battle in this tight space, instead of just sneaking around them. We weren't sure at this time as well about moving trebuchets, so that was something that really could have helped my ally, well, my enemy, if he was able to move these 2 trebuchets perhaps to here and here. But so my ally moves up pretty quick and just starts laying down fire onto his position. And something my friend was not too sure about, it seems, was repeating crossbows range, and just he's being outranged by archers there. So I move up some saber militia just to break open that gate, and like in I think Empire was the first game to do it. You don't need ladders, you can just use a grappling hook. So I just had my infantry rushing forward after my archers engaged. Again, just we were outranging his repeating crossbows. So the towers in this can really lay down a lot of fire against you, and especially considering there's towers on the walls, and then there's towers dotted through, you know, the entire city. So it can be quite devastating for that. So I just had all of my guys I wanted to just get as many people on the walls as quickly as I could, just take the walls from them, and turn this into a more crowded fight, because I know that the longer we stay out, the worse it's going to be. So he does have some trebuchets firing. That one, I know it can turn slightly, but it can't turn all the way around, so unfortunately he only has one trebuchet on the go right now. And had he had all four of them, then that could have been pretty great. So take down that gate, but there's a unit of Black Mountain Marauders on the other side, and I knew that they are going to beat my Saber Militia, so I just decided, form up. There's no point pushing through, just wait. Laying down a lot of fire to these guys that are just running, and I'm climbing up onto the walls. Sorry about this frame loss, guy, but these people they're sitting here for just far too long, but they're not under fire, so I wasn't too worried about it. But I've got my champion just up here fighting by himself. As I say, this is the kind of unfair thing about having 6 generals for his 3, but he's got his sentinel now. Of course, what he could have maybe done is just shoved his sentinel in this gate, but he was not too fond of the idea of just sitting and waiting for us, so he sort of sallies out. This was a move that was it was accidental. I think he maybe just clicked on his guys. Instead of clicking on the walls, he probably clicked just here, and so I was able to mince him with these archers, and then just get my commander stuck in. So it's a pretty messy fight on the walls, but in my mind, as long as I could get my guys fighting his on the walls, I was happy. So he quite easily defeats them, charges out. I decide to try and get a rear charge on them, but then he comes back in there, and he stays in there. It seems. Nope, he comes back out. I was pretty sure he did. If I had made contact with them, and then had he slammed into the back of these guys, that could have gotten really bad quite quickly. But as it stands, with him outside, I can use my repeating crossbows, especially my heavy repeating crossbows, and just lay waste to this force. So yeah, they just start to disintegrate a little bit. So even though they've got a charge against my back, we're surrounding this guy, and we're shooting him in the back with my repeating crossbows. So we've got, yeah, we still do outnumber him quite a bit. This is my friend here. Yeah, so he's got two of his generals in there fighting, and that's forcing them to retreat. Now this would have maybe been a good time for him to just fall back and form a final defense, but as I say, I don't think he was too bothered about that idea. I think he just wanted to fight us as early as possible. So I think these 2 units start to move out at some point. With them dealt with, I want to get this general inside, even though he's already half health. How's he doing for health? He's still doing quite well, actually. So, and he's near enough just clearing that wall. He's got some crossbowmen still to fight. So my friend there, my ally here, he was definitely the pincushion for the most part. He charged in first and lost a lot of guys, especially against these heavy repeating crossbows. This is probably a good place to have repeating crossbows. Instead of putting repeating crossbows on the walls, maybe you want to put repeating crossbows just off the walls. I did a siege, which unfortunately I didn't have time to save the replay, but I tried to do the standard thing that in medieval, where you sort of sacrifice the walls and line your archers up outside of it, well, on your side, and fire onto it. But it's because they've got this slight lip here that you just don't have as great a shot as it on them as you do in a lot of medieval castles, where this side is just, there's no walls. So I managed to take the walls in their entirety, and it's a pretty just chaotic scrap at this point. Which, as I say, I think that's the sort of deal with this. If you want a more tactical or strategic play, then I would probably just suggest playing on records mode. I think romance mode is really just for fighting away, and it's nice because you midway through the fight you can pause, and you not pause the game, but you can just look down and watch what's happening, and you know you've not lost the game just because you've looked away from your army for 5 seconds, which is a nice thing. So he does take the walls back, but I'm just not too worried at that point. He can line them up on this side, which is quite a nice thing, that you're able to line up on both sides of the walls and hit people from all sides. Now my all of my generals were still alive, and his was battling out against the enemy strategist here, which will definitely win because she's a champion. These are the 2 fresh marauders that had just shown up, and I think they just accidentally ran through this unit. Had they engaged them, they're Jan Sword Guard. Maybe it would have been pretty even, but had they engaged them, then that could have been pretty one-sided. But I know that I think I got a bit carried away with myself, and I thought, okay, yeah, great, we've won, and I became very relaxed for a while. But then I realised he's still got these 2 entirely fresh units, and my friend is entirely wiped out, with the exception of 1 champion and this unit. So I sort of had to jump into action. I've sort of lost these guys, but they're out of ammunition. They're really just there to hold these marauders in place while I organise my men to actually strike them. She's battling out against this sentinel, who is certainly much more of a much better sort of match for her. So I run in to try and help, but because of how exhausted he is, I don't think I'm a massive fan of just how slow people get when they become exhausted. I know it takes quite a while for them to become exhausted in this game, but yeah, it's like this is my general here, exhausted, and this is the speed that you're having to deal with him running. I don't know. It's certainly not a small thing, but it's something I'm just gonna have to keep in mind, that being exhausted is a very big deal. So Sentinel is battling away against these guys, and he's not built for combat, but he's getting a few kills, and these are decent quality units, so it's allowing them to deal with the rest of these marauders here, and then they'll move into assist. He does rout at the sight of his own shadow, of course, but you know, you can kind of deal with that. You're not really meant to use him in a fight, so again, just Terminator chasing very slowly with my vanguard. At this point I just sort of wanted to secure the center. I wasn't really wanting to run around the map trying to kill these guys, all the while getting shot by all the archer towers. So I could have of course captured them, but no, I just wanted to take the center and win. But with, I think he gets the army losses issue in just a moment. Let's speed it up for a sec, see actually what happens. So I'm chasing these guys, he gets into the center. Now, so they rout, and then yeah, it's army losses. Good. So that was, again, I think just about everything is a Pyrrhic victory. But no, all in all, Pink Crossbows did pretty well. My archers in general did, you know, they held their, well, this one did quite well. And yeah, as for my melee, yeah, nothing jumping out. It's, yeah, I often feel, I just don't think I've gotten melee cracked just yet in this game, and it's something I do need to look into. So that was that. So there's 2 more battles to go. Yeah, I think I'm just going to make this all one big video. So this was after the sieges and after a bit of mucking about, and this was again the original guy. So this I made this army totally, and just all of these are heavy crossbows. These are spear guard. I think these are oh, I can't remember, defending protectors of the earth, I think, or protectors of earth. Let's see, where are they? The swordsmen. There they are. Protectors of heaven, sorry. And then all of these guys are halberdiers. It's the same champion. I just really like how he goes. And then yeah, this commander here. So I've dismounted him from the start because his whole thing is I want him to stay with the unit. Whereas these, you know, he's looking around for the best place where he can fight, and he's just to provide buffs. So I want to keep him on a horse. So my spear guard, as far as I know right now, these Imperial defenders have the best shield value in the game. And I don't know how effective shields are, but I wanted to try that out. So all of these are heavy crossbows, whereas my friend here, all he has are crossbows. So any skirmish battle, his crossbows, you know, I thought, you know, he'll outmatch me, because surely, you know, my guy's the armor is going to be too weak to, you know, get penetrated by a crossbow anyway. So, but something kind of interesting happened. So I've got this line, but this is kind of my just teasing force that I move out just to try and coax him to do something. And yeah, he curves his line, and then with him curving like this, these two are able to fire. So there's a bit of shenanigans here, which I definitely could have tried to avoid. And what I should have done was probably had my strategist moved over there, and definitely should have had my commander over there. But something that does benefit you with heavy crossbows over standard crossbows is the heightened leadership that the heavy crossbows get. They're also better in melee, but you know, that's not really their issue. And you can see here as well, I've got everybody in loose formation, which is pretty helpful. So my friend is moving his cav. I accidentally brought no cavalry to this fight. Wasn't on purpose, but I wasn't too upset about it actually. I've just not been able to crack cavalry in this game. I'll do some more practice with it because I do enjoy cavalry in other games. So they've moved here, and I think well, they're hidden right now, but I saw them go in there, so I know that they're hanging around. And then these are where the power of his army is, these swordsmen, and I know that if I allow them to get to me in full health, I'm screwed. So they were originally lined up there. I was able to just throw a few crossbow bolts at them, and I'm able to do the same with these guys because they don't have any sort of shield. And this is a benefit definitely to having heavy crossbows, because I don't know these stats actually, but they're probably they're relatively well armored. That is a benefit though. My heavy crossbows over their crossbows, they've actually got really quite a nice armor, whereas crossbowmen don't. So all in all, the crossbowmen versus heavy crossbows, I've not quite decided on all of that yet. So I moved them up here kind of just like a, you know, hey, yeah, shoot at me, but he does not, which was too bad. I was really hoping he would, just because I wanted to see how the shields hold out. So yeah, he's still got those guys. Are they hidden, or they're not hidden? No. So there's nothing that he could really hide in over here is the thing. So we hit them, and I've realised at this point I've won the skirmish battle, which was not something I had been able to do in any of the other battles that we had done. So that means, you know, he's got to come at me. or he, you know, all of these guys still have a lot of ammunition, so you know he can just wait for me to line up and rain fire into everybody. Ah, yeah, so he moved up. I wasn't too worried about them getting hit by archer fire, so I moved them up to rattle some shots into them. And I do quite a bit of damage, really.
Our noble comrade has been attacked.
Oh. Yeah, oh yes. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, these cav came down just to try and... I think he knew he's lost the skirmish, so he's trying to destroy my archers. So, quite a bold cavalry charge. But since I didn't have any cavalry to counter him, all I had was this mounted champion that I just ran out toward them every time. But when he comes at me with these two, I was just happy that I had these spears out front. Now there, of course, they've got a lot less charge resistance, but he wasn't intending to charge them, so that helped me. Yeah, I like the whole no cavalry strategy because, but you know, just because it allows me to spend a lot more on the infantry, allows me to use an entire force, you know, six men of heavy crossbows. But no, I think it's good to have a unit of spear cav just on standby for when the enemy brings quite a lot of cavalry. And also then if I can, you know, in a rather chaotic melee, I can just get around and like these men in a way, well these men I guess are totally undefended. So if I was inclined, I could just run my cavalry here and just slam straight into them. There's nothing they could do about that. Maybe get the champion to respond to me, but yeah. It's actually quite funny, we've got a strategist, champion and commander, and you know, exact same on both sides. So the heavy crossbows, how am I actually doing? So these are spear guards, so they've got quite good shields, but not as good as my shields, but still 17. It's certainly not bad. Whereas mine's 20. Okay, it's actually really quite close, and they're withstanding my shots relatively well. Yeah. So I start running on back, sort of leave the commander. The reason I ran back here was because I wanted to face him as a combined group. I didn't want to face him in this layered situation that I had going for me. So my, well that looks pretty cool actually, just how close they all get. Yeah, so his spear guard will be beaten by my Imperial Defenders, and these Protectors of Heaven I knew would definitely be able to deal with those spear guard. But with everything, I've not really left anything to respond to these flanking swordsmen. I've got him, which he's moving to flank this group. Had he maybe been a little bit quicker with these guys, that could have been dicey. And now, as I say, the cav is good to go. So both of our commanders are mixed up in the same fight. So he's still got his mounted commander, which up against my halberdiers, they're just able to deal a lot of damage to that. Whereas I've just jumped him off the horse, so these spears aren't doing anything. But yeah, two champions. We didn't do any dueling in this one. We just did a lot of trying to find each other in the field. I love the dueling mechanic, but you know, I just didn't feel I needed to use it. Now that was a mix-up. So I knew that they weren't firing, so I tried to click on them to pull them out. Accidentally clicked on the spears, so moved the spears out, and the crossbows are just sitting there now facing down these very skilled swordsmen for a second before I'm able to pull them out.
The enemy warriors are running.
So what are they dealing with right now? Yeah, it's they've sort of got, yeah, so they're attacked in the rear. They are pretty badly surrounded. Now what I could have maybe done is just taken this unit and just turned them around and attacked them, because they will keep this guy in place and stop them from attacking them in the rear, and that would mean that I'm no longer suffering this attack in the rear negative. That could have been a good move. So again, the champions just sort of battle it out, but since I've got him surrounded, I've just got a constant mess. Actually, I think I leave that situation, don't I? Yeah, I actually felt pretty comfortable. I had just a touch more health than he did, and I moved my strategist nearby just to run in and get a few cheeky stabs if he had to. Commanders are of course nowhere near as good in melee as many others, but they can hold their own, especially against sort of spear units. So they come round to flank, and this is where I was shocked by how good these Imperial defenders were. You know, they were being hit on both sides by spear guards and these rapid tiger infantry, and I thought, right, hold out as long as you can, but they really did well. Now these guys, I expected them to do well. They were totally surrounded, but yeah. So he pulls them off just to try and either rout or remove my Imperial Dragons. Actually, I don't know, I think he's just a bit unsure right there.
Enemy unit flees. What coward!
Ah yeah, so he loved just chasing away my strategist. Did that in just about every battle. My strategist was running away from him and usually being killed in the end. So as you can sort of see, the right is definitely mine, and the left is most likely his. But with my men holding out pretty comfortably, I was feeling like I'll beat the right before I'm too worried about the left. And also with my commander, I still had my. Ooh, actually, what's going on here? Okay, no. I think he's just holding him back because he was quite badly injured. But maybe he should have taken him and, instead of hunting down my champion, maybe he should have gone for my very badly injured commander. So yeah, he comes in with his commander, and he's just sort of running around there. The strategist still full on health, so I think a strategist, even though they're not great fighters at all, when you've got them mounted, they can do something. Just run it, even disruption. Just throwing a line around is pretty helpful. Commander just totally by himself. Still just trying to spark a rout or give them just a few seconds more to hold. But that's them wiped out there. And the commander was killed also.
Move up quickly. Do not relent.
So the last 2 minutes there, a lot of brawling there. My champion just sort of seeing him off, and then this next champion comes in. I kill him. Yeah, as I say, I think he's the only champion I really ever go for. Just I'm a really big fan. And the left, you know, I thought it would fall, but it really sort of doesn't. You know, it holds exceptionally well. And even though this champion's my only general left, I kept him in the fight, just wanting to tie up the situation. I knew that he can probably withstand a lot from that commander. So his commander does this. No, he stays mounted.
What cowards!
And then I come in from behind there.
The enemy general falls.
Good. So yeah, that was the last of their generals gone, and that finished there. So yeah, I was really, so that was the first army that I used in an open field I had fully created, and I was pretty happy with how they you know, they gave a very good accounting of themselves. I loved the spear guard. Not the spear guard, the Imperial defenders. I thought that they were great. You know, the defenders of heaven handled themselves really well, and I liked using halberd infantry just to double as, you know, anti-cav, and they're also just really good in the fight. So heavy crossbows though were something I was kind of just unsure about. You can see sort of the difference in kills between my heavy crossbows and his normal crossbows, and I thought just from even though it is more expensive to go for a heavy crossbow army, I liked the idea. Now this was our last battle of last night, so I did not change my army at all. exact same army. He went for Imperial Defenders. He was seeing mine, he liked them. Stayed for crossbows, took these 2 units of cav, and then went for some of these swordsmen, who I'm not sure, and he experienced them up out the wazoo. So we were looking for a nice flat map, and I said, oh, just click up the northwest, you get really flat territory up there. Little did I know, this is what I was facing. So I would say this was the last battle of the night. We just said, stuff it, let's go. He did something pretty interesting here. This is actually how I used to play Napoleon Total War and Empire Total War back in the day. I wouldn't have one concentrated army. I would use 2 entirely independent forces. And, you know, that gave you a lot more flexibility in the field, since they were... It wasn't just like you separated out your army, you had 2 totally independent armies, and that's what he's done here. Like, I can grab everything I've got and overwhelm this force, but it's got all of the tools that a normal army would have, just less of them. So it's this is a playstyle that I'm definitely gonna look into again, because it's a way I really do enjoy playing the game. So he's got 3 crossbows here, and I only answer him with 2. Now, it's dumb. I just don't know why. I really should have just moved this guy up as well, and then when he moves down, I've still got these 3 that I can answer those 3 with. But yeah, he as well as that, he's focusing all of his attention on one of my units, whereas I am spreading my attention between 2, this guy and this guy. So I should have had everybody right bang on this middle, or right bang on this right. Just that would have really helped me. But I've got my strategist up there providing some buffs, and I've got my commander there just trying to hold everybody in place. He's still got his cav. I didn't bring any cavalry. I liked how it went last time. So I had my champion, who I probably should have had run over here in response to his cav, but I had a unit of spears. I wasn't too worried. Turned my crossbows around to fire upon his horses, and didn't deal as much damage in that volley as I would have wanted. Get another volley, take out a good few more, and all the while, keep in mind they're getting fired upon by these crossbows. I think ranged units need to be reworked. I don't know how I would do it myself. Maybe just a little bit less ammunition. But as I say, I've not played this game enough to judge that. It's just every fight, everybody I talk to seems to just say that, yeah, like when I build my armies, I make sure I've got more archers than I've got anything else, and the real power of archers is immense. So, you know, it's tough, but and I'm certainly not too experienced with game balancing, so I know that I've lost the skirmish fight at this point. Like it was a massacre, so I need to be aggressive. So I grab a lot, back it up with the commander, and I rush up toward this force. And I leave behind these crossbows to just, you know, fire off some shots to them, and just keep the attention of this group. And I also leave behind a few people just to guard them from enemy cav, and also for when he takes his men and flanks my force here, I can come in. So I drop. This general has an ability to buff everybody's 100% ranged block chance. But the issue was he wasn't firing at them with his archers, he was firing at my archers. So yeah, it's that's ouch. Okay, I didn't spot that. Yeah, I should have just, I don't know, because they get a charge off, but so many of them get killed there. These guys come up, I'm not sure. So I felt pretty comfortable about that fight. Well, you know, when these halberds turn up, slam into there, I knew I'd feel okay. So he starts dancing around. He's on his horse, but these are just sword infantry. So I was okay to just let that continue. I managed to get them shaken. He starts routing, slams a few of them down, and I've broken through on the left in a way. So instead of what I did there was I just slammed them in. Instead of doing that, I should have pushed them around, come in from this side. So yep, I was falling for the same thing that always happens to the enemy. I was mounted, he was unmounted, and I think he was getting an anti-cavalry bonus against me, so I should have dismounted, and I do midway through the fight. Yeah, that's a great thing about fighting people that are unmounted. You can just knock them on their ass. So he gets his boys moving up, and as I say, this is what these guys were waiting for. Just waiting for a chance to sort of flank them, answer them. Now, why do I do this? Those spears are, I don't know. Yeah, no, what I should have done there was not done that in such a wild fashion. Just come around and come up like that. Now these guys have a chance, so they're coming around there, can go in there, can go into those archers. How long do we have in this battle? 5 minutes, so I'll slow it down a little bit just to oh, I know. Yeah, I wish you could slow it down a little more accurately, not just slow motion or pause. So he dismounted. Oh, alright, yeah, no, my champion needed assistance. He was getting his butt kicked in this fight. So what I've always done when I make armies is my champion, I always level him up fully. Commander, I've usually only ever leveled him up to the middle level, and strategist, I always only level him up to the middle level. Just to save more money for my army as a whole. Maybe I should max out all of them, but no. I like having men yeah, I like having money to keep my army buffed out. I'm just watching something pretty incredible happens here, and I don't want to miss it. So he's got his commander just mounted, running around. I see that he's doing that, but no, I want him. I want to destroy this commander champion here. So I focus him again, and then yeah, slash just takes out both of my generals in like 2 swift movements. I thought that was just absolutely crazy. So it leaves me with just my strategist, and he's got on this really nice flank. I get a downhill charge against him with my halberdiers, but my guys are winded, his are fresh. They're charging uphill, but yeah. General recently died, everybody's pretty upset about that, so let's say over all of the fighting, he's got the height advantage, which I really like. He was he did say that he can march off the hill, we can do the battle sort of sideways, but no, I wanted to see if I could do this. I wanted to see if I could sort of push him off, but what I really should have done instead was come up here and sort of just not engaged him properly, just taking a long way round and lined up on his side, so that we were either even or maybe even I got a slight advantage. So starting to turn against me here, and I'm forced to just have my strategist in the fight. I've left him mounted, which is probably not the best idea, but I just wanted him to really just knock people down. This force, he just decides to push through. I think he's chasing these guys away. He's not got these guys with guard mode, so I would love to chase them down, but we're sort of still getting hit up there. That was a nuisance. I just noticed it there. I'll from now on, what I will try to do is just turn everything on guard mode from the start. It's just not. It's always negative for me to just chase somebody away. They're entirely surrounded. Every second they can give me is just a blessing at this point to try and turn this situation around. But with my strategist running, it's not looking good. He's got his champion and his commander just oh no, are they routing? Yeah, they are. So my protectors of heaven are the only people I have on the field right now that can really maybe turn this around for me. I get them to challenge this guy, and he just runs right through them. So I decide, yep, screw that, just get on running, get a downhill charge against these guys. But that charge from 2 busted up units of cav is enough to remove just about everything I had on this side. So even though I do get that downhill charge off, there was nothing fighting. So it's not really very traumatic for the enemy. And I'm starting to get just outnumbered on all sides. They've come back. But as you can see, only 10 seconds left. No. So it was a good go, but I was unable to do that. Again, my Imperial defenders, I was happy with them. They're definitely a solid choice for me now. My crossbows were mishandled, for sure, and my halberdiers, I need to try and because I've got so much spear power. Maybe what I should do is try to find some swordsman units to replace these guys, and just see if I can get some better stats, because I don't need them for their anti-cavalry. Yeah, it's an idea. But no, anyway, yeah, his generals were not needed too much. My generals were very much needed. So I wasn't. Well, sorry, I'm not. I like this game. I like it quite a bit. It's pretty cinematic, pretty interesting. Just watch the fights happen. It reminds me a lot of Shogun, which Shogun, as I say, is still one of my favorite Total War games. Probably is, I'd say, my favorite Total War game in terms of how fun the pitch battles are. And I'm just hoping to see if this grows on me a bit more, as I just get to know the units a lot more, get to know the different generals a lot more, and experiment with my army a bit. So yeah, thank you very much, guys.